Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. I know it's been a while, so I want to give just a little bit of an update since my surgery in February. I have had some very long-lasting effects from the surgery. I've gained a lot of weight. I have lost a lot of mobility. It has taken, so that was February, March, April, May. So this has been 3 months. I'm finally getting my pain under control-ish, and now I'm working on the mobility part of it. So I just wanted to give that update. Man, sometimes things that you just wish didn't happen have to happen, right? That's how we learn and grow. So anyways, welcome back. Welcome to new subscribers, people that have not seen this channel before. And of course, thank you to those of you that have been with me from the beginning. If you are new, please hit that subscribe button and the like button. The like button is super, super important. And don't be afraid to put some dialogue in the comments below. So I want to do this video on the changes that we are going to start seeing. And I think many of you have already started seeing some of those changes. It's really difficult in today's day and age to figure out what's real and what's AI generated, right? And I talked about this in a video quite a while ago about the fact that somebody could put Trump's picture, Trump's face, Trump's words, and make them into something that was never said, right? And that could spark all kinds of whatever chaos. And it would be really difficult for some people to tell the difference between truth and fake. So we have to be super, super careful about that. And because we seem to have some slow media right now, like there's nothing super important going on. It's been coming out that Germany, has given Ukraine the okay to use long-range missiles inside of Russia. Like this was all over the news the last few days. But I want to remind everybody that Biden had already done this back when he was still sitting in the Oval Office. But I think, so that's not really news in and of itself. But what makes this a little bit more, I don't know, I don't want to say threatening, but I'm going to use that word, is that this came out, Germany came out saying this at the same time that they put forces in Lithuania. Okay. Which I believe is the first time since World War II that they have put troops in a foreign country. So that makes it more escalatory than just coming out with a headline. So the media is telling a partial truth. Like, oh my gosh, and they're trying to hype this up like Germany's sad. Well, so did Biden a while ago, so it's nothing new. But it comes at a time when Germany's doing things that are much more escalatory. And because Germany is part of NATO, guilty by association. So we really need to pay attention to that because in World War I, so, obviously we all know World War I started because of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, right? Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for that. Well, it started basically with that assassination, but Germany invaded Belgium. And that was really the catalyst for that war. And then, of course, World War II, we know that it was because Germany invaded Poland, and that was September 1st of 1939. Okay, so the first two world wars were started with different pretenses, but kind of the same outcome. Like Germany was the first two, right? And now we have Germany putting forces in Lithuania. Now, I am not at all saying that this is all leading to World War III, although the probability, and I'll get into that, the probability is very high that they want this war to escalate. Because as we've talked about several times before, is that when countries start losing their value, they turn to war, because that's how that mechanism of income comes through that war machine, right? So if we're starting to fail, then we need to start a war or join a war, because then at least the main players all get richer, which benefits the country. Okay? And they're not doing too well right now. So it does not surprise me. Somebody today I've heard explained it as ballistic podiatry. Basically shooting themselves in the foot. You know, they're doing this after Russia, but they're reliant on Russia for quite a few things. So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. So I just wanted to bring that out because it's not new news. It's just new in the context of what's going on alongside of that. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay. The second thing is the big, beautiful bill that everybody's talking about, right? Yay, Trump is getting this through. We're just going to be so awesome. We're really not. Okay. And people need to understand this. It's not as wonderful as we are being led to believe. And I have said from the get-go that I am so glad that Trump has become president, because we know what the alternative would have been. Oh, my goodness. But he wanted the Green New Deal completely cut out of this bill, and it's not. There's a good portion of it that is still in this bill. Now, he could go through, and I don't know, because I don't know the structure of that. I don't know if he can go through and line item veto, or if he has to veto the whole thing and then they go back to the drawing board, right? But they have a lot of that Green New Deal stuff still in there. Okay? Many of the cuts that are being proposed in there are not going to happen for 4 to 5 years. For example, the Medicaid, Medicare, having people, if they can work, getting off of that supplement. Well, why, if you have the ability to work, why shouldn't you be working? I don't care how many kids you have. You chose to have that many kids, right? You should still be out there working. Now, I get everybody gets into hard times. Been there, done that. Everybody gets into hard times. But if you are able to work, you need to work yourself out of it and get off of a program meant for people that can't. Just my opinion, just saying. But that stuff's not going to happen for 4 to 5 years. So what's going to happen here, from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, or if you have a different idea in the comments, our own government will need to buy our own bonds, because we are so far in debt. And this big, beautiful bill is going to put us even further in debt. Okay? So that means we're going to have that low economic growth. Now, I know that there are countries pledging, these billions of dollars to, into our economy, starting businesses, whatever. But that takes time. It takes time to get through all of the bureaucracy to make that happen. So we're going to have, if we end up having a low economic growth, that high inflation that we're still grappling with, right? Some things have come down, some things have not in price. And then we still have that high interest. That's called stagflation. And it's very possible that we stay where we are because of tariffs and sanctions that are creating the environment where the threat of that stagflation could happen, which means your prices really might not come down. We might not see that $1.95 gas again, or those 99-cent eggs at Aldi's, right? We may not see that again for a long time. So you have to prepare for that. So don't wait for those prices to drop. Another thing is the violence that's going around in this country. It's unbelievable. Almost every day now we're hearing of mass shootings, or we're hearing of people driving their cars into homes, or airplane crashes. That's been a big one. And I'm not saying the airplane crashes are led by violence, but there's all of these mass casualty, or, a lot, people getting injured or killed because of things going on. These riots at the universities aren't going to stop. And that extremism that we're seeing across the country right now, I think that the life jacket is the cause for that, because of the mandates that they had. And oh my gosh, you are going to hurt a lot of people if you don't comply, right? Everybody remembers that. And so that has actually led to the extremism that we have now. And then you have, the riots in the cities after a certain person was arrested, and all the riots that happened after that. All of these things have led to the extremism that we have, especially on college campuses. So that's probably not going to go away anytime soon also. So just be aware of that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is everything that I've been seeing. So my husband and I became weather spotters, right, for the National Weather Service. So we are able to go out and identify the formation of a tornado. And I thought that was really important. It's not necessarily a prepper thing. On the other hand, knowing what to look for when we don't have the TVs to tell us, or our phones, or any kind of alert system electronically that something is coming our way, knowing those signs is going to be really beneficial. So I think maybe in a way it is prepper related. But the one thing that we've been hearing a lot on the different weather, we don't just watch NOAA or the Weather Service. We watch, meteorologists on YouTube, and we read a lot of articles from independent people, and they're all saying the same thing. We're going to have a hotter summer, more dangerous drought, more hurricanes. Now, this isn't new. Again, this is nothing new. We've had these predictions before, right? We've survived them. But this could end up being worse than what we've ever seen. And when we prep, our main focus is on the power grid down, right? So being able to do all of our daily activities without any power, that's what we prep the most of, okay? With our infrastructure the way that it is now, it's going to be very stressed if this prediction is true across the board, okay? And then adding issues to this are the data centers, cloud services, and AI systems that are taking up quadruple the amount of energy that we had taken away from us before. Okay, so that's putting an exponential weight on our power grid structure, especially in Ohio. Okay, all it takes is one breach, and that can create large-scale power outages. And we've talked about before that I think it was seven mini, what are they called? Substations. If they are hurt or destroyed, that can wipe out the entire country's power grid, and that would take months, if not years, to get back in service. So that threat never really goes away. Okay, it's something that we all really have to keep in mind. So now I'm going to talk about so now I'm going to talk about what we can do as preppers. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about. So make America healthy again. So I'm sorry, not FDR. RFK Jr. has come up with a list of things that they are going to start taking away from our food source. So companies such as Gatorade, and that's just one of many, will have to either scrap their Gatorade or they'll have to find a different alternative way to make their product consumable the way that consumers drink Gatorade now, right? And a lot for Gatorade and cereals and all that have to do with the dyes that they're using in them. That leads to a lot of the ADHD, ADD issues that we have in kids, right? And there's going to be a lot of changes to our food. The flavor is going to be different when they start taking out some of those chemicals. The colors are going to be different. Obviously, like your Trix cereal, you're not going to have the colors in there. So I don't know what these companies are going to do to combat that and keep their product sellable to the consumer. So that's going to be really interesting, but I'm also going to talk about that as well. What we can do as preppers where that's not really going to affect us. So the first thing, as preppers, we're coming into summer, here in Wisconsin, I think we're supposed to get up in the 80s towards the end of the week and the weekend. It's Tuesday today. So remember that when it was wintertime, we talked about if the grid went down, you had to find a space in your home that you could have as where everybody could stay warm, right? If you had a wood stove or you had that, an alternative heat source for cooking and heating, you want to do the same thing in the summer, except you want to have that cool zone, right? What room in your house is more shaded by trees or coolest during the summertime without AC on? You want to figure out how you can keep that coolness. So, for example, having ice and having a fan, or having a fan come in from the window if you have power, or creating your own, if you have a generator, you can run a small fan on that and have that cooling some ice blowing right on you. You can have wet towels hanging in your window, so when a breeze blows, it's blowing some of that cold air on you. But figure out what that cool zone would be, especially if you're in the areas like California and Texas, possibly even Florida, where they're talking temps can get to 110, 115 degrees this summer, and in not too long a time. So I would figure that out right now. Prepare for constant high or even higher electrical costs, because it's going to be in very high demand with everybody running their sprinklers, right? Because if it's dry and hot, that drought is going to continue to get worse. So you're going to have people wanting to put their sprinklers on, plus the AC units, blah, blah, blah. So you need to start preparing for that higher prices, but also possible blackouts or controls, like we don't want you running water, or we don't want you running your AC at these times. You need to prepare for that. Okay. When it comes to so in my short video, I talked about like your gardens. How are you going to keep your gardens growing, right? So we have a water catchment system up by our field garden. We have one water catchment system by our other garden, and we have one water catchment system near where we would be preparing food in our wood kitchen stove. So we have 3 water catchments. We're getting ready to set up a 4th one. So that is going to allow us, at least in the short term, right? If it's a long, drawn-out drought, then you have to figure out which of these garden items are we going to, which garden, which we kind of need both, because the one garden is all of the, like the tomatoes and the peppers and the carrots and the peas and the beans, and my sister's been doing a fabulous job with that. And then I do, in the other field garden, I do all of the viney stuff. So your pumpkin, squash, cucumbers, corn, potatoes. I know those aren't vinies, but they go well with the viney stuff. So we have to be able actually to keep both of those gardens going. So we have one catchment system at each garden. Now, if we're in a long, drawn-out drought, we are going to have to figure out a way to keep those gardens growing throughout those long periods of time. So we know where our nearest water sources are that could probably sustain us through the summer, until harvest. So we're not particularly worried about that. But if you don't have that, if you don't have access to an additional water source, you might want to start thinking about that right now. Like, where would you get that water to keep your gardens going? That's going to be really important, especially with the impact that the Make America Healthy Again, MAHA, is going to try to get rid of some of these flavorings and foods and chemicals in our food. So what we've been doing, and we have our herb gardens going again. But we are canning. So if like parsley comes on sale in Walmart, we get what we can and we dehydrate. Same with our thyme, oregano. What's this one? Oh, tarragon, right? And then what we do also is, and this is my husband, he's the big part of this, but this is starch made from potatoes. So when you peel potatoes, you dehydrate the skins, and then you powder it up, and that's a starch. So you can use that just like you would like baking powder almost to thicken, right? Thicken gravies. So remember the salve that I made, which, plantain's coming into season, so I'm going to be making some more of it. The salve, so we kept the plantain seeds and froze them, because like with flour and stuff, if you're putting it away for long term, you should freeze that stuff. It gets all the bugs out, right? So he took all of our plantain seeds that have been frozen all winter long, and he ground those into flour. So we now have flour that we don't have to go to the grocery store and buy, especially if it becomes one of those commodities that you can't get, right, with everything going on. And so, just having that kind of flour, you can make pancakes, you can make bread, cookies, cake, anything that you would use flour for, we just use a plantain seed flour for. So trying to find all of these different things and putting them away. If you can find a deal on some of this stuff, if you have a dehydrator, dehydrate. Get away from, start getting your body adjusted away from these chemically altered foods, right? Get away from your microwavables, get away from your processed foods. I'm actually going to, my mom years ago gave me a recipe for egg noodles. I'm going to be trying that out because I believe that I can cook them and dehydrate them, or dehydrate the noodles. I'm not the dough, or can the dough. I'm trying to figure all that out. But I'm actually, for one of my videos, I'm going to make egg noodles. And so that we don't have to, it's, again, that's something we don't have to buy. And I can use the plantain seeds to make that. So plantain seed egg noodles. So way healthier, right? So learning how to do all of that stuff is going to be really important. I'm going to be... There's a lot that I want to get into on these videos. I've had you guys long enough. Thank you for your patience. I will be coming out with videos when I can. I'm not going to promise I'm going to have one in 3 days. I got to stop doing that because it's really dependent on my health. But I hope this has been helpful for you, not only to watch for what's going on, but also to try to put some of those prepping things and apply them to your life now and start making the changes that you need to make. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that like button. Comment in the comments below, please. I really strongly encourage a community of like-mindedness. So stay safe, stay aware, and God bless.